This is my junior prom story. Okay, so this is the story I have to tell you a story. So 4 months previous, man, you guys already know the punchline to all these jokes. So what happened was I was telling the story and then someone interrupted us and now we're retaping it. So these are all going to be fake laughs, but it's for your betterment. So my buddy texts me and he's like, hey, like, do you want to come to my mutual? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to mutual. I don't like my mutual. I'm not going to yours. And then he's like, we're speed dating with a bunch of girls. And I was like, okay, what time's mutual? So I go to this mutual and there's this really, really pretty girl there, like super pretty. So I like lined up in line so that we'd be like right next to each other. But then when we all sat down, I was like one table off. And then they had us like rotate in the wrong direction. So she was my very last person I was going to talk to. And we get there and they're like, okay, you got like 10 seconds because we got to end this. So I'm like, I think you're really pretty. My name's Blake. What's your phone number? And so I get her phone number and we talk a little bit, but then my mom moves up to Idaho, drags me along with her, and so like I never really got to talk to her. But then, so I'm in Idaho for a few months, and then I find out I'm going back to Utah for prom, for spring break, and so I want to surprise all my buddies with like me being back for prom. And so I'm like, I can't ask anybody from Alta or else like everyone's gonna know that I'm coming back. So I've got to ask somebody that goes to a different high school. And so I remember this girl that was super cute that like lived in Bountiful. So I text her and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I need you to leave this date open, like you can't plan anything. And you like, I need to know your address. And so she's like, all right, here's my address, and I'll leave it open. So my first thought was like, you're probably not very smart. Because like she doesn't know me, I could be totally creepy. But then the second was like, okay, this works. So I put together a package and then mailed it to her. That just like asked her to prom, and then she sent me one back that said yes. And so like we're getting close to prom. The only person that knew was like one of my best friends, and I'm like, you've got to plan everything because I'm not going to be down there till the day of prom. And he's like, dude, I got your back. No worries. Like I got you. Don't sweat it. So we head down. I go down the day of prom, and I get down there, and I pick up my tuxedo, and I go to my friend's house. Oh, I gotta tell you this part too. So my dad had to get a rental car that weekend, and I'm like, Dad, you've got to like just upgrade it to a Camaro. Like I know, and he's like, I'm not gonna do that. Like it's gonna, and I'm like, I'll pay the difference. You need a rental car like Thursday and Saturday. The prom's on Friday, right? So get a Camaro. Let me take it Friday. I'll pay the difference. You get a Camaro Thursday and Saturday, and then I get to have a Camaro for prom. And he's like, let me think about it. And then he calls me like a couple hours later and he's like, I got some good news and some bad news. And I'm like, hey, what's the bad news? And he's like, the bad news is it's not the Super Sport. But the good news is that it's red. And so I'm like, sweet, we got a Camaro. And he's like, oh, and like it didn't cost any more to upgrade because they didn't have the other car. So I was like, sweet, I got a Camaro for free. And so I get down there, I pick up the Camaro, I pick up my suit, and I couldn't go down and pick up a tuxedo. So I just had to call my little Chinese guy, Lee. I'm like, Lee, and he speaks very poor English. So it's like need tuxedo, like you got me? And he's like, I got you. And so I show up, that guy nailed it. I looked fantastic. Like it was fitted, it was black. I looked like James Bond. I'm driving a red Camaro, racing stripes. It was like I was set. So I show up at my buddy's house, and like this guy's got my back, right? Like he's got dinner planned, activity, everything. And he's like, bro, we got nothing. And I'm like, what? Like it's the day of prom. Like he's like, my date got in a fight with her friend. We can't be in their group anymore. We got nothing. And I was like, well, figure something out. I gotta go pick this girl up, right? So I drive up to Bountiful, go pick her up, and she is gorgeous, right? Way out of my league. I figured out later, I think she kind of said yes because she thought that no one at my school would say yes, and that's why I was asking her. But I don't really care why she said yes because she was fantastic. So went and pick her up. I'm driving back to my buddy's house, and I'm like, okay, like I gotta warn you, like I don't know. He said we didn't have anything planned. We might be showing up eating mac and cheese and then going to the dance. And so she's cool. She's like, ah, it's all right, like whatever. So we show up to my buddy's house, and I go to like knock on the door, and his dad opens, right, the door, and his dad is in a full tuxedo. He's got the towel over the arm, and he's like, Mr. Laker, like table for two, and I'm like, yeah, that's my name. And so he leads us in. They've got their entire front room like with like drapes everywhere, and there's like candles and like soft music, and there's like a candlelit dinner in the middle. We had like a 5-course meal, like with him and his like my buddy's sister and dad were like all dressed up, and they're like bringing us the plates.
And they had like an hour to plan this?
What? No, they had less than that. They had like 30 minutes to put this together. Like someone in the kitchen's just like throwing the food was fantastic. And so I'm just like, sweet, this is great. And so then like dinner goes a little long, but I'm like, it's cool because everyone shows up to the dance late anyway, and then that way we don't have to wait in line to get in. And so this is like probably my favorite point of my life right now. So we're driving up, and it's in the Capitol building up in Utah. So I'm driving up in this Camaro. I've got she is just a professional she's professional at looking good. She was a dancer, and then after that now she does billboards. Like she's gorgeous. And so I'm driving up like with her, and like we get up to the Capitol building, and there's one parking spot in the front of the Capitol that's like reserved spot for like the governor of Utah, right? But he's not going to show up on prom night, and no one parked there because it has a reserve sign, and it's right in the front. And I guess there were some technical issues or something, because it was supposed to start like an hour before, and no one was let into the building, right? So there's like 3,000 kids right out front in line, and then like I pull right up in the Camaro, and so everybody turns, and I pull right into the front spot, right? Because I'm like, no one else is going to take this spot. And so everyone turns because it's the car. And then I get out, and one of my buddies in the back, like, he's like, Blake's back, right? So everybody turns, like, as I'm, like, letting this girl out of the car, right? And so, like, everybody's freaking out because it's me, like, because it's my buddies that I haven't seen in forever, because they haven't seen me in, like, 4 or 5 months. And so everyone's like, Blake, it's Blake. I love that guy. And then they turn, and, like I'm...
The supermodel gets out of the
right.
car.
And so she's just gorgeous, and we're, like, walking up to the front, and all my friends are, like, high-fiving me and, like, hitting me on the head and patting me. And there's seriously, like, 3,000 kids out front. Like, yeah. And then, like people I've never met before, like, yeah, like, he's got a gorgeous girl in a, like, fast car. I love this kid. He's gotta be awesome, right? So I'm just like, yeah. And, like, I'm high-fiving everybody and, like, hugging people I've never, like, if there'd been babies, I would have been kissing them. Like, these people, they just love me, right? And I have not told her anything about the fact that I've been in Idaho for months, right?
Oh.
So this is she thinks this is the entrance I get every time I walk into school. Like, it's like, I love this guy, and they're like hugging me, and like so she just is like and she's like, people love you, and so I should have been like, I haven't been here in a while, so people haven't seen. But what I say is like, yeah. So we get in there. We're all going crazy, and one of my best friends was the one DJing for the dance, right? So we're going, and in the middle of this like crazy song, he stops all the music, and he's like, Blake's back, and everyone's like, ah. So I'm getting like crowd surfed across the thing, and like the people are like grabbing me, and like it was the greatest night of my entire life. And then we drove home really fast in the Camaro. And like I ended up taking her home, and then I went in, and it was like 4 in the morning when we got home, 4 or 5, and I go into my dad's room to like tell him I'm home, and he's like, you home? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to you about it in the morning. I'm like, no, like you gotta wake up right now. This is the greatest night of my entire life. So I woke my dad up, told him the whole story. He's like, you make me hate you. So that was my junior prom story.
Okay, that was